They say every village carries a secret, but some secrets are so dark that even the earth itself tries to bury them. In the heart of Africa, where the soil runs red and the trees whisper to one another in the night, there was once a tale parents refused to tell their children aloud. A tale of a father whose rage grew so twisted, so monstrous, that the ground itself remembered his crime. The story begins with silence. A silence so heavy, it felt as if the wind itself had fled, leaving the village smothered beneath its weight. No one dared to mention her name, the girl who vanished, or rather, the girl who was taken by her own father's hands. They said that when he pounded her into the earth, the soil did not just swallow her body. It swallowed her spirit, her cries, her innocence, and it transformed them into something restless, something that never stopped stirring beneath the surface. And though many seasons have passed, the ground where she disappeared still trembles at night. Some say if you press your ear to that soil, you can still hear her heartbeat. Others whisper that if you stay too long, the pounding begins again, as if the earth is reenacting her suffering. What kind of father could do such a thing? What kind of curse could be born from such blood? Tonight, you will hear the truth of a tale the old ones tried to bury. The tale of the father who pounded his daughter alive. The village of Odiu, top deep in the northern savannah, was a place built on rhythm. Every morning began with the pounding of pestles against mortars, as women ground millet into fine meal. The sound echoed like a heartbeat across the land, steady, comforting, familiar. Men rose with the sun, their spears glinting as they marched toward hunting grounds. Children's laughter tangled with the morning songs of birds. To any traveler, Odiu appeared untouched by sorrow, a village in harmony with its land. Its people were proud, bound by tradition, by ritual, and by respect for the spirits that walked invisibly among them. The old griot sat beneath baobab trees, recounting tales of heroes and monsters. Drums beat during festivals, carrying voices into the night sky, as if summoning the ancestors themselves to dance. But beneath the surface of celebration and peace, shadows grew. The people of Odiu, though blessed with fertile soil, lived under constant fear of angering the spirits. Every drought, every sickness, every failed harvest was seen as punishment from ancestors wronged or oaths broken. The father at the heart of this tale was a man named Kofi. Strong, stern, respected among his peers, Kofi's life was a portrait of discipline. He worked harder than most, spoke less than most, and carried in his eyes a darkness that unsettled even his neighbors. He had one daughter, Abeni, whose laughter could chase away storms, whose eyes glowed like the reflection of fireflies on water. She was the joy of the village, a child of beauty and promise. Yet where others saw light, Kofi saw something else. Some said he envied her freedom, her youth, her spirit. Others whispered that a shadow clung to him, twisting his heart against his own blood. The whispers began small. Abeni wandered too close to the river at dusk, and the elders muttered of omens. One night, she returned home late, her face pale, claiming she had heard drums in the forest where no festival was taking place. Her father's gaze hardened that night, and neighbors overheard his voice rising like thunder within their hut. Yet when Abeni appeared the next morning, her smile tried to mask the fear hiding at the corners of her mouth. But Odiu was a village that noticed everything. They saw the way Kofi's temper flared more often, the way Abeni's laughter grew quieter. They saw how she began avoiding the pounding grounds at dawn, where women gathered, how she walked quickly past the sacred tree where offerings were left. And they noticed something else: the soil around their compound seemed disturbed, as if turned from beneath, as though something restless clawed at the earth. Children spoke of hearing muffled cries when they played nearby, but were silenced by their mother's stern warnings. The pounding, once the rhythm of life, began to change. The mortars echoed differently, hollow, uneasy, like drums warning of war. And then, one night, it happened. Neighbors woke to the sound of pounding long after midnight. Heavy, furious pounding. It was too loud to be grain, too violent to be ritual. The sound carried through the darkness, hammering against the hearts of those who heard it. They stayed indoors, terrified, clutching charms and whispering prayers. For they knew that whatever was happening in Kofi's compound was not meant for mortal eyes. By dawn, Abeni was gone. Kofi stood in silence, his face carved from stone. No funeral was held. No grave was dug. When asked, he only said the earth had taken what it demanded. Days turned into weeks, and the village tried to move on, though no one truly could. At night, the pounding returned. Sometimes soft, sometimes deafening, but always inhuman. And then the soil began to bleed. Dark stains appeared around Kofi's compound, seeping through the earth, staining the footsteps of those who dared approach. Children claimed to see a hand reaching from the ground, its fingers raw and broken, dragging itself upward before vanishing. Women wept at their mortars, for every strike against the grain seemed to echo with the screams of a child. The elders gathered, desperate to silence what had been unleashed, but even their strongest rituals faltered. The air grew heavy, the nights unbearable. No one slept. No one dared to pound grain after dusk. They knew Abeni had not been buried. She had been pounded alive into the earth, and her spirit would not rest. And so the curse spread, like cracks in dry soil. Families abandoned their homes. Crops withered though the rains came. Shadows moved without owners. Odiu became a village haunted not by strangers, but by the cries of its own child. One night, the villagers gathered at the pounding ground, desperate to end it. The drums were silent. The fires burned low. They brought charms, sacrifices, and whispered prayers. They asked Kofi to confess, to beg forgiveness, but he stood apart, unmoved. And then the ground trembled. A sound rose, slow at first, then deafening, the pounding, but louder than ever before. The earth split beneath their feet, soil exploding upward as if rejecting its burden. From the crack, something emerged. It was not Abeni as she once was. Her form was twisted, her body pale as ash, her eyes glowing with a light that blinded. Her hands were bruised, broken, yet they moved with strength beyond the living. She rose from the soil, her cries piercing the air, a scream that tore through flesh and bone alike. Villagers fell to their knees, covering their ears, but the sound crawled inside them, rattling their hearts. Kofi alone stood still, his eyes locked on hers. For the first time, his stone face cracked. The pounding grew louder, though no peso struck, as if the earth itself pounded in rhythm with her fury. She reached for him, her broken fingers stretching toward the father who had betrayed her. And in that moment, the earth swallowed him. His body sank, screaming, dragged down into the soil that had once hidden his crime. The villagers fled, terrified, but the pounding followed them, echoing in their ears long after they left the compound. To this day, the people of Odiu do not pound grain at night. They whisper Abini's name only in prayers, hoping her spirit rests. But some say the ground still trembles, that the pounding continues when the moon is full. A reminder of a father's sin, and of a daughter's vengeance. And so the tale lives on, not merely as a story, but as a warning. For in Odiu, they say the earth remembers everything. Every strike. Every cry. Every betrayal. And sometimes, it gives back what was buried. So tell me, if you pressed your ear to the ground tonight, what would you hear? The heartbeat of the earth? Or the pounding of a daughter who refuses to be forgotten? And so, the tale ends, but its shadow lingers. The screams of the past, the curses of the forgotten, and the warnings of our ancestors remain. Remember, in every whisper of the wind, in every shadow that falls across your path, there may be a story waiting to be told, one that could claim you, if you dare to ignore it. If this tale has unsettled you, or made you think, share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you wish to hear more stories like this, subscribe, because in Africa, the night is never silent, and the dead are never truly gone.